Welcome Eorzean parsers of light and darkness. Today I want to talk about the advanced combat tracker, the Final Fantasy parser and the problems it brings with it. I know, I am quite late with this video, but still, as I have created a tutorial video for the advanced combat tracker with many views and insane feedback, I feel responsible to deliver some feedback about that topic. Why are we discussing this? I thought we should be silent about its existence and its use inside the game. Just before the Christmas season came over us, a famous Twitch streamer called Arthars had been banned for a period of 10 days. The reason Square named had been violations of terms of service by calling out another player on his livestream while participating Alexander Ultimate together. So let us break down this precedent before coming to the core matter of the problem. While on the legal side of things, we all know that the advanced combat tracker, being a third-party software interacting with game data from outside of the game, is technically not allowed. I haven't experienced a single case or heard from it where they banned people for only using ACT. The only time Square use their authority to pronounce bans are in combination when people use ACT and through the data they receive harass or call out other players for their DPS insufficiency and stuff like that. And now, let me throw myself into the hands of the Lord and take a stand. Personally, I am a passionate defender of the advanced combat tracker, because over the years it became a second skin of gameplay. If I cannot read my real damage numbers, I'm bored as hell, mostly. It's actually the drive of competition that keeps my interest in PvE content at all. As I have been focused on PvP in my whole World of Warcraft past, I feel like having at least a concrete number to compete against others is a must-have when doing esports. Nonetheless, I always try to be fair and helpful to my companions, because you have to take into consideration we all started at a very low skill level at some point of our gaming career, so blaming others for their incapabilities is some sort of unjust. Above that, it's always favorable to grant chances and try to help people to get them to another level, or give them advice where to find ways or guides to help themselves. Still, all this is not made easy, because if we recognize someone underperforming significantly, we aren't technically allowed to talk about his performance being bad. So if you want to help him, on the first hand you need to lean yourself into his kindness and mercy not to report you for using ACT and calling him out. Remember, whispering is disabled during any content, so you have to call him out in party chat at least. While this is the friendly behavior, let us come to the reason behind the opposite. Because on the other hand, joining content you're definitely not ready for because of dealing an insufficient amount of DPS is not only annoying for the people using ACT and seeing the low numbers, but I think it's already some sort of harassment, even if not done intentionally. You're technically hindering 7 people from progressing and getting their clear, or by forcing them to compensate your bad performance. All this to get the clear for yourself, or just for feeding your ignorance of standing in a massive effort disparity and injustice you declared by not knowing it better. I honestly think this is on the same stage like, hey, I know all the mechanics, while in truth not knowing a single one. It is true. In the same way you could watch a boss guide for the boss you want to deal with, you could easily head for a job guide on YouTube or any website of your personal trust to verify your knowledge when you completely want to deny the verification through ACT. And this is where I have to protect our renty but entertaining fellow Arthars.
Ah, at last, Frostmourne hungers.
Not this guy. The streamer.
This is more like it.
While Arthur's overall behavior is debatable, and he may overact at some point of his livestreams or videos, I can't help it but to defend the actual situation he had been banned for. While some of his words and phrases were over the top, the meaning behind them is correct. They are actually doing Ultimate Alexander, the most difficult encounter for our actual level 80 content. And if you start a party to do this thing, you can expect people to know their job. Personally, I think that it's already fair to expect that from people doing Savage content or even extreme trials. But guys, it's Ultimate, and if you cannot push out at least 80% of what other people push out, it's definitely not your content. Or at least not yet until you practice your job. And even the trash talk or overreaction I will try to defend. Imagine you're ordering a plumber, mechanic or doctor. It is not only recommended for that person to have learned the job, but it's legally instructed by at least the countries with a stable legal and state system. If your plumber doesn't know how to change the waste pipe, or your doctor never heard anything about abdominal influenza, you will blame them, loudly in the most cases, and you will do so with good reason. I know Final Fantasy XIV is no job, you can do correctly or not, but as Square designed a battle system and mechanics that are mostly linear and can be learned through using patterns over and over again, at least those patterns can be learned. And I have to agree with the balance. All these patterns consist of logical numbers and will give you clear results in nearly each situation. So if there is someone joining a Titan Force Savage farm group bringing 10k DPS or less as samurai, he definitely is not capable of contributing to the clear, like others do. That means he is failing at his job because of the enrage his group will presumably run into. Surely this can be caused through many deaths, or him trying to avoid AoEs or help his mates. But like I mentioned in my DPS misconceptions video, your task as DPS job is to push out a certain amount of DPS, even if you're doing a phenomenal job in supporting your party. Nonetheless, there are still those people without a single clue about their DPS numbers, being bound to PS4 where parsing is not possible at the moment, or haven't just found their way to ACT yet. That is kinda tricky to install and not as near as natural as Recount or SCADA were in WoW. That means you could easily be wrong about someone who seems to be on the right path with rotations and the battle theory, but still he will be underperforming in that example without actually knowing it. And why did nobody enlighten him? Because ACT is against TOS. Damn, we're running in circles here. But that means we are ready to talk about the core of it all. While I truly believe that a game could run without those third-party tools, it is nearly impossible and unfitting to run pro-gamer-oriented content like the tougher Savage encounters or the Epic of Alexander without a non-prohibited access to parsing tools. Let me make that clear, actually no one taking that thing serious going for 95 percentiles and above will do so without using ACT. I mean, FFLogs is dependent on the ACT data, so all the stuff listed there is technically illegal. And even though we have concrete numbers on potency values, server ticks, GCDs, dot damage and all that stuff can be assumed and calculated, nobody would have the chance to actually prove that theory behind it. There needs to be some sort of tool that will calculate the rotations result, and if the theory crafting gone well, or something just didn't address a single value or section that is important for your actual damage output. I know some people will call this an unnecessary complaint, at least for healer or tanking jobs. But believe it or not, these calculations are important to them as well. Each participant of high-end content needs to put out a certain amount of damage, and to analyze if we are doing that correctly, ACT is a requirement. Think about it like building a house from scratch. Without calculations of an architect, or at least with numbers he gave to the construction company, but without any graphical schemes or plans. It is possible to do it, but definitely a pain in the ass. So why is Square Enix so eagerly focused to prohibit any form of parsing? Because of the toxicity it can produce. While being a necessity to high-end raiding in my opinion and a justification to situations mentioned above, there are still people that would abuse that tool in a WoW-like behavior. Hey dude, you're laming us down with your 8k DPS, please leave or just delete the game. But reality produces the same result, without the person being called out maybe, and feeling anxiety about group engagement for the next runs. Hey guys, let's kick A for providing too small DPS numbers. My ACT says he only pushes out 8k when you B are dealing 12k DPS. On the first look it seems like a much better outcome, but now we are getting a bit philosophical. Even when the result may be the same, no side can make a stand here. On the person's side who just got kicked, this leaves a very big question mark behind. While the kicker's side is actually the bigger problem. See it as some sort of negative energy that is always accumulated and never going to be released without violating the terms of service. So at one point we might see this moment again where the negative energy cannot be accumulated anymore and will be unleashed upon another victim, which could also be inside of a livestream that can have a much more concerning impact on the person's social standing. So even when I always try to keep my focus on improving my own performance with ACT, sometimes I find myself in the situation of being on the annoyance level of over 9000. So I could easily become the next Arthars during one of my live streams, even when I believe to be a very patient and tranquil person. Remember the episode from Simpsons where Homer gets these nasty anger pimples and turns into Hulk right after being victim to another series of Bart's pranks? We all could be that Homer. What is the solution to this? The first would be a ban wave against people using ACT at all. Because while being a tolerated necessity to keep serious gamers on their game, it still is against TOS, and that is where ban waves can be justified. But yes, This brings us to Square's biggest contradiction. If they really care about a friendly and unharmful gaming philosophy, they wouldn't continue in feeding the anger I was talking about. Don't believe they are doing this only for us to have ACT being tolerated and we are good to go. No, people like me would stop playing the game, and I'm not alone. The ACT installation guide is my video with the second highest views on my channel after the big Black Mage explosions. It is the sad reality. They try to find the balance between keeping pro gamers and casuals satisfied, and if either side is striking against the other one, they try to adjust and fix the damage as best as possible. Sure, I would not dare to blame them for it, but there has to be another way.
There's got to be some other way.
Damn it, Uther. As your future king, I order you to purge this city.
There needs to be another way. My practical solution is so simple, I always wonder why they haven't put it in there. Get rid of item level requirements to participate in content. We got these nice little dummies that I pushed so many hits onto, they should already fear our cute Desperius. That means just give these dummies a meaning for everyone. Let them be the trial for unlocking actual content. If the Red Mage Fencer Master cannot deal its 12k DPS but wants to join Eden 4 Savage, he needs to practice on that dummy until he's able to. I mean, it doesn't need to be the gate for each content, but at least for the Savage stuff, this could be a fitting solution. It's actually the X, Savage and Ultimate content where people become salty over and over again, and complaining about missing DPS of someone at Expert Dungeons or stuff like that really is a joke. These people could be banned without hesitation. Of course, they could allow ACT with these dummy trials in game, but I think handling the parsing system like they do now would be fair enough. By using those dummy trial gates, nobody can have a real struggle when at least people can push out the required DPS for specific encounters on that dummy situation. If that person will always die and won't reach its dummy standard, you can still give him tips or chances to make it better, but at least you guarantee that he won't be hard casting Ver Arrows and Ver Thunders all over or having those famous Ice Black Mages. Surely, these trials should be adjusted according to the job's meter position and strength. Wait, that already is the actual situation with these dummies? Yes, and this is where my lack of understanding comes from. Square, you already have this feature in game. Why don't you use it to shoot 2 witches with 1 bullet, like Irvine did? Wait, he didn't shoot a single one. Just make use of this feature. It doesn't distract newcomers or bloody casuals from participating in content. They will do that trial and they will do so gladly. I personally would love those trials, to have a laboratory environment to get my rotations done and actually have a meaning behind it. And if you're worried about people not being able to carry a friend through content, no problem, just give your party finder a checkbox like cleared dummy trial or something like that. And when talking about party finder, that could also be a solution to farm parties, where you could make an exclusive farm parties checkbox or requirement, not only needing the kill, but a stronger DPS at the dummy trial. Scaling these cannot be that difficult. And surely, this can be figured out for healers as well, combining damage waves to a trust system generated ally who will take tank busters, and both of you take hits while you need to do a small amount of DPS as well. No 8k, but 3 to 4k at least. And as a nice side effect, this could wake some healers from their illusion of being that iconic healer being with only one purpose. Sorry guys, it is just not right to avoid any form of damage output. And yes Square, if I remember correctly, WoW had this feature since Mists of Pandaria and finalized it with these Legion Tower trials that of course are a whole different level of what we need for final. Okay guys, that's the deal. I'm very sorry if that video disaligned with some of your personal ideas and philosophies about gaming behavior. But as this is the state of things, I cannot deny it and will never do so until anyone brought a solution to this tragedy. I honestly hope that this video receives a certain range, so that Square can either ban me or finally start working on their ACT handling. Yoshi-P, I love you, I really do, but please fix that ACT issue. Even if you have to ban me for a certain amount of time, I would gladly be the martyr to bring us the parsing deliverance we all seek. And as much as I love Mr. Yoshida, the more I love you all for your support and the amazing feedback you have gifted me with. I hope that this rant will not turn anyone away from spending time with my usual content, and if you feel obliged to support my idea, like this video or write a comment about your thoughts. And if you want to support me personally on my content creation, check out my Twitch or Patreon for more Desperius content. Thank you guys for watching and keep up the love for Final Fantasy. Until then, take care and never let your deeds be directed by anger.
I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth if I have to. Do you hear me? To the ends of the earth!